Good morning, it's Connie Brower. This is October 13th, 2016. I composed a letter for the editor of the Chronicle Herald concerning the International Day of the Girl. And my question is, when are we going to have an International Day of the Boy? Women have been given special status in Canada and North America. Status of women gets billions of dollars in funding. Men get nothing. We have women's shelters in every province, not one shelter for men and their children. Special education for women in universities. No special education for men. Special grants and funding for women for legal and entrepreneurs. Nothing for men. Longer criminal sentences for men, shorter sentences for women. Women who commit violence against men or other women are seldom, if ever, arrested, charged, and convicted. Women predominantly get custody, child support, and spousal support from men. Men seldom do. They are lucky if they can even see their children after divorce. The judicial system in Canada and the politicians are maliciously anti-father and anti-male in Canada. There are no civil rights. No courts will accept charter rights claims. Abortion is legal in Canada. No need to get the father's approval to murder his child. His approval or his disapproval, it doesn't matter. Too bad for the dad. The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is calling on world leaders and international stakeholders to join Canada as it hosts the 5th replenishment conference of the Global Funds to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria in Montreal, Quebec, on September 16th to 17th, 2016. During the conference, Canada will highlight the pressing need to help women and girls who often must bear a disproportionate amount of the burden caused by AIDS and malaria, and who assume significant and additional responsibility for those affected by tuberculosis. Canada has pledged $785 million for 2017 to 2019 to help the Global Fund save an additional 8 million lives and stop an additional 300 million new infections by 2019. So is Prime Minister Trudeau now saying that AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria are a gender issue? Here are some facts from Wikipedia about violence against males. Violence against men is collectively violent acts that are disproportionately or exclusively committed against men. Men are overrepresented as both victims and perpetrators of violence. Sexual violence against men is treated differently in any given society from that committed against women, and may be unrecognized by international law. In 2013, Partner Abuse State of Knowledge Project, called PASC, published by the Domestic Violence Research Group, again reiterated the findings of parity in rates of both perpetration and victimization for men and women. The unprecedented domestic violence study affirms the need to recognize male victims. Men who are victims of domestic violence are at times reluctant to report it or seek help. There is also an established paradigm that only males perpetrate domestic violence and are never victims. What? As with other forms of violence against men, intimate partner violence is generally less recognized in society when the victims are men. Violence of women against men in relationships is often trivialized. Due to the supposed weaker physique of women in such cases, the use of dangerous objects and weapons are omitted. Research since the 1990s has identified issues of perceived and actual bias when police are involved, with the male victim being negated even while injured. Unneeded male circumcision is considered by several groups to be a form of violence against young men and boys and babies. The International Criminal Court considers forced circumcision to be an inhumane act. The situations of structural violence that include war and genocide, men and boys are frequently singled out and killed. The murder of targets by sex during the Kosovo War estimates of civilian male victims of mass killings suggests that they made up more than 90% of all civilian casualties. Other examples of selective mass killings of civilian men include some of Stalin's purges. Non-combatant men and boys have been and continue to be the most frequent targets of mass killings and genocidal slaughter, as well as a host of lesser atrocities and abuses. Gendercide Watch, an independent human rights group, documents multiple genocides aimed at males, adults, and children. The Anfal campaign, Iraqi Kurdistan, 1988, Armenian genocide, 1915-17, Rwanda, 1994. Forced conscription can also be considered gender-based violence against men. In armed conflict, sexual violence is committed by men against men as psychological warfare in order to demoralize the enemy. The practice dates back to ancient Persia and the Crusades. Castration is used as a means of physical torture with strong psychological effects, namely the loss of the ability to procreate and the loss of the status of a full man. International criminal law does not consider gender-based sexual violence against men a separate type of offense and treats it as war crimes or torture. The culture of silence around this issue often leaves men with no support. In the U.S., crime statistics from the 1976 onward show that men make up the majority of the homicide perpetrators, regardless of the victims. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, women who kill men are most likely to kill acquaintances, spouses, or boyfriends, while men are more likely to kill strangers. In many cases, women kill men due to being victims of intimate partner abuse. However, it should be noted that this research was conducted on women on death row, a sample size of approximately 97 during the last 100 years. So they don't even take statistics. In Canada, men and women, this is me speaking, in Canada, men and women are supposed to be protected by the Charter. Men and women are to be treated equal. Section 28 of the Charter says, notwithstanding anything in this Charter, the rights and freedoms referred to it are guaranteed equally to male and female persons. We can't go around telling other countries what to do when we can't get it right in Canada. If you want the men in foreign countries to behave better, then you have to educate both genders, young and old. Stop the discrimination.